Professor Ray here. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to combine geometry and art together in this video. What I've got is a black canvas, and I want to do an oil painting on that black canvas, but I want it to be bounded by an ellipse. So the question becomes, how do we make sure we can put an ellipse on this canvas so that I can paint within the bounds of the ellipse? So to create this black canvas, all I did was take a white canvas and I took some acrylic black paint, painted it, really worked it in good, and then let it dry. Acrylic dries pretty quick. Probably within a couple of hours you could actually go and do an oil painting on it. I did this actually about a week ago, so it's been sitting for about a week. It's good and dry. But here's what we're going to do. How do you do an ellipse on this? So what I have down on the table, taped down, is what's called contact paper. It's got a adhesive side, and I'm going to actually end up laying that contact paper and adhering it to the surface of this black canvas. I also picked an adhesive paper that was white so I can see how I'm going over the edges and everything. And that's just a visual for me as a painter to know how I'm laying this out. So the question is, how do we get an ellipse onto this canvas? And that's what I'm going to show you. So what I'll do is I'll remove the canvas. And we'll zoom in so you can see just a little bit better. What I did, I've marked the edges of my black canvas. I marked the midpoints here and here, here and here, and then I drew lines to create this grid structure. Now, to draw an ellipse has three parts that we're really concerned about. A major axis, which is a long axis, a minor axis, which is a short axis, and two focal points. So I wanted to lay this out so I could control what's called the eccentricity, or how flat or how wide the ellipse is. So I picked a couple points and measured in and managed to come up with what I thought would be good points. I then took a piece of twine and I tied knots in the end called either a bowline or a bowline, depends, both are correct, so that it can move as I move my pencil around. And here's what you do to trace an ellipse. You basically put the pencil in here, you start, and you rotate around with the pencil, and it will trace out the ellipse. And you do that on both halves, and you'll have your elliptical template. The eccentricity, like I said, is how wide or how flat it is. If I start moving these points in closer and closer, it starts getting wider on the minor axis. And what will eventually happen is we will form a perfect circle when these 2 points are directly in the middle. So we go from a circle, and as we go out, we start to get an ellipse, and we start flattening out more and more and more. So we'll go ahead now and draw the ellipse. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start slowly drawing. I did use a piece of twine, I should note that, because I wanted something just a little bit thicker. It's easier to catch the tip of my pencil as I go around. So what I can do is kind of pull the ellipse up this way, and you want to draw without pulling too hard. I don't want to pull my push pins out. So if I start here and start tracing around, there I have part of my ellipse. I'll pull it up this way, pull it to the same point. I have the other part of my ellipse. Then I'll pull it down this way, repeat the process. I've got that third part. Pull down, repeat the process, and there, now I've just completed my ellipse. And I measured it so I had some, I'm going to have black border around it. The painting is going to go in here, and when I adhere the contact paper to the black canvas, it means I can paint and go over the edges but the material here will keep the oil paint from spreading out beyond this. So you can use this technique, and I guess what we'll show later is how the best, how the end result comes out. So that's how you draw an ellipse. Again, we have a major axis, a minor axis, two focal points, and we control what's called the eccentricity, or the thickness, if you will, and it goes from an ellipse. If we converge these points to the middle, it becomes a circle. And here's the final product. You can see we have the elliptical shape cut out in the contact paper, and we have the contact paper adhered to the black canvas. So we're ready to start our oil painting. Now, if you want to try this at home, let me give you a couple things to be aware of. If you do it on a white canvas, very important to make this line just as crisp as you can, because any overflow will be very noticeable on a white canvas. The black canvas, for what I'm going to do, is pretty forgiving. So if I have a little bit of overflow, you'll never see it. But anyway, that's how you go ahead and cut an ellipse in a piece of contact paper to adhere to a canvas for doing a painting.